Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I am thrilled to be with you today. I'm just going to check and make sure we are live. I have to say this is the Friday before we have next week off for spring break, so I am definitely feeling it because all of the children are home. So it's all good, but I'm happy to be with you here today. In today's training, I want to talk about something that we spent some time talking about this week in Learn Academy, which is really how to start thinking about automating what you're doing. So often what happens, I'm just going to adjust my screen just here for a second. So often what happens is that when we are, we've spent time actually serving our one-on-one clients, doing done for you work, maybe thinking about packaging what we're doing, but the value feels like it's going to be completely different if we start packaging and automating what it is that we do. And so this struggle is something that I think almost everybody goes through as they transition from doing kind of the one-on-one done for you, or even like live sessions if you've been doing those, to transform into how do you package it, how do you automate what you're doing, and how do you start to scale? Because the reality is, you guys, is that the only way that you can scale is to either add more complexity in your business by hiring more people, right? Or starting to look at how do you leverage your time better by automating certain parts of the business in terms of what you're doing and in terms of helping your customers. So that's what I want to talk about today is like, how do you start thinking about that, right? How do you get past, first of all, the mindset of, well, if I automate and transform what I'm doing one-on-one into something that can help more people, that's packaged, that actually saves you time, how does that affect the customer experience, right? Like, how will they show up? Will they show up? What happens when I'm not with them live? Is the value different there? And then, kind of just some of the mechanics of how do you go about starting this process. And so it was an interesting discussion that we had. And so again, I wanted to bring that to the table here today for this training. So hopefully it will serve you if you are kind of in this place. So the first thing that I want to tackle is really how do you get yourself sort of out of that mindset of the value that you're providing is you showing up live with your clients. Because here's the thing, is that the biggest value that you're providing for them is that you are able to really help them solve a problem, right? So you're looking at what you do, what your expertise is, what the problem is that that person that you're serving or company that you're serving has, and then how do you help them solve that problem. And so the biggest thing that you can do is actually figure out how to solve that problem with a consistent framework or consistent path that helps them actually get the results, right? So it does two things. One, it helps you have a consistent way that you're helping people. And two, it really gives them a clear path for how to be successful. And to be honest, that's the most kind of the highest level of value that you can provide to them, right? Is to actually do what you're going to say that you're going to do. You are going to really help them solve that problem, whether it be in your done for you work, in your one-on-one services, or in a packaged solution. And so one of the best ways to think about this is, yes, they have purchased what you have to offer. Are they purchasing it because of you personally, or are they purchasing it because you have a solution for them? Of course, they're purchasing it because you have a solution for them, right? They may like you, they may think that you are a great person, but ultimately at the end of the day, the reason that they're hiring you is to give them the result that they are paying you for. So when you think about this in terms of automation and really being able to scale your business, is that is the focus, right? Not so much about how you're showing up or when you're showing up or how often you're showing up, right? It's really about that ability that you have. So when I'm working with people and helping them kind of, transform this idea of how do you sort of package your high touch, your one-on-one, your done for you work, it's really about identifying that specific framework that you have, the way that you go about helping people solve that problem. Then what you can do is, once you identify that, think about first, because a lot of times it's a big jump for people to say, well, I've been helping people this way and now everything is going to be automated, right? That's a huge jump for people to take. It's possible, like mechanically it's possible, but mentally it's a harder shift to think about, that you could provide that highest level of service even when you're not physically present, doing all of the teaching, doing all of the work, and doing all the things, right? And so most of the time I don't tell people like go from doing your thing to packaging it all up and like being totally hands off, because you need to go through a transition yourself in terms of how you're helping. So here's what I recommend that you do: is the first thing is think about when you show up with your clients, what's that highest level of value you're providing to them when you're showing up? Is it the teaching, or is it the fact that you can kind of drill down to their core problem, their unique kind of nuance within the framework? Is it that you're able to answer questions? Is it that they just need somebody sort of next to them, keeping them accountable? What is that? What's like the highest value that you're providing to them? Because most of the time it's not in the information that you're providing, it's not in necessarily the teaching that you're providing, it's in your ability to help them apply what you're teaching to their own work, right? And so when you start thinking about it from that perspective, you can start to peel away some of the maybe some of the lower level things that that you could package, right? Instead of going from like zero to totally packaged, you could think about like what are the what are the first things that you could package up. And to be honest, most of the time it's everything around the experience. So say you're doing like a I don't know, a 2-day or 3-day intensive strategy session with your people. Maybe the session itself isn't something that you're automating, but it's everything around it. It's the sales and marketing. It's the beginning of the fulfillment process, sort of that onboarding or indoctrination in terms of what they need to do, how they need to prepare, what materials they need, all those kinds of things, right? That's another part that is a really, really juicy area to start automating. And then what happens after, right? What happens when the experience is over? How do you follow up? How do you reinforce? How do you check in? So sometimes it's not about like taking your whole thing and just completely, turning it into something that where you're not there. Sometimes it's really baby stepping it into it, and it's like, okay, so what are all the things around it that you can automate and really kind of leverage? Then the next thing is, when you think about the activities or the exercises or the different things that you're having them do based on what you're teaching, that's another place where a lot of value is coming in, right? That's when it's necessary for you to show up, either as an accountability coach, as somebody who's sort of helping them through the material, or even just giving feedback, right? And so think about the teaching element that you have created in order to put them in that place where they can do the activity. That teaching part may be another opportunity for them to do that before they come in live with you. So they have the background, they have sort of the context of what you're going to be doing, and all of that time that you've just spent doing the education piece, doing the context piece, is now eliminated because they're doing it before they walk into the room. Then when you're with them in the room, you're able, and this is a virtual room or a physical room, right? Then you're able to really jump in and help them apply it to their world. And so then that starts to shrink your responsibility in terms of when you're showing up. Because when you show up, you want to provide the highest level of value. So all those other things are great opportunities to really dial in that automation. Then the last thing that I tell people to do really is, how do you create that experience where they can learn and apply in an automated online program or online course? And that's really where Learn Academy comes in terms of like, how do you think about the experience that you're creating around that opportunity, that business opportunity, so you can grow and scale. Because the reality is, like, if you think about, if you're helping one-on-one clients, or even if you're doing small groups, you're eventually going to max out in terms of how many sessions you can do. If you're doing one-on-one, like you maybe can do one, maybe two a week, depending on how intense they are, right? So again, you have to either hire more people, or you have to figure out a way to just show up and do that. But you're going to max out. And when you are doing groups, you still are going to max out because of the nature of what you're doing and how you have done it. And so sometimes it's not just a matter of going from, completely high touch to like, I'm automating and I'm totally out on the beach doing nothing. It's really looking at, how do you start to take the steps to transform what you're doing into a leverageable model that helps you gain your time and show up at the highest level. I don't know about you, but there are times, and especially if you've been doing this live, kind of what you do live for a long time, there are times when I used to show up and I used to do training every single week, and it was always the same thing. And I literally could come home and say, I don't even know what I said today, because I'm so used to saying it. It's exactly the same thing every week. I'm teaching the same exact thing, that I would come home and I'd be like, yep, I was totally not physically or mentally present, or I was physically present, I guess, but not mentally present that whole time, because I didn't need to be. I already knew what I was saying. That is a super good indication that there's probably an opportunity for you to show up in a way that's more automated. It could be a video like this. It could be some other type of way of teaching, but it gives you the opportunity to start thinking about, how can I show up in a way that still serves people at the highest level, but also serves you in terms of how do you grow and scale. Because the reality is that you are showing up, whether it's live or recorded, they're still experiencing you, right? Like, they're still getting the best of you and your framework and how you're helping them get results. It's just that they may be showing up, and you may be showing up a little bit differently, a little bit more creatively. And that's really hard, how to start thinking about this process. The other thing is in Learn Academy, what we talk a lot about is doing a beta and really testing it. One of the things we were talking about in our call the other day is one of the people had a sort of a big objection to, well, if I don't do it live, then nobody's going to show up and do the work. Nobody's actually going to watch the videos. Nobody's actually going to do the work. And this, I'm telling you, this is an objection. Like, this is a personal objection. This has nothing to do with your people and nothing to do with their ability to actually get the result that they want to get, right? So people are paying, in this case, they're paying like up to $10,000, right? Like, if you're paying $10,000 and you don't show up and do the work that's been presented to you, it's not really your problem as the course creator, right? As the business owner. Somebody wants to give you that money and not show up, fine, right? Like, that's just part of the thing. But if that's stopping you from creating an experience that helps people be successful, even when you're not in the room with them, then it's time to think about how to get creative and show up differently and test your offer. So my answer to that is always, like, grab a small section of your people and do a test, see what happens. If you put some of it online, or even all of it online, run a small group of your people through it, see what happens, right? Can you reproduce the experience that you're doing live and in an online environment? And, can you do that? What does that look like? How can you think about really creating that cool experience that matches what they're doing online or in person, with an online opportunity? Test it with a small group of people, see what happens, tweak, and keep going. There are so many options out there for you to really look at how to create a cool experience online that's not just like throwing a bunch of videos out and calling it a day, right? Like you and I both know that we have a higher level of care and of um, you know, just experience that we want our customers to go through. That's why we've built our agencies and built our practices where we're doing one-on-one work, that we want to make sure that we're not only providing the highest level of value, but we're also creating an awesome experience. And we want to show up and be you know, be helpful so people can succeed. So often it's really just being intentional about it before you start and looking at that and looking at how it makes a difference. So hopefully that serves you today. It's a little bit of a different kind of slant versus sort of the practical kind of things that I've been talking about, but it is super critical when you get started, especially if you've been in this game and you've been doing one-on-one, um, is that it is possible and really fun to create an experience that either matches or could be actually a lot better than one-on-one. And doing that in a way that leverages your time as well as creates that opportunity for your people. It's just about getting started, kind of getting past that in your mind that it's just going to be this static, you know, drony video talking thing. And that, you know, yeah, why would people do that, right? They're not interested in just watching a ton of videos, but you don't show up that way in your business. Why would you show up that way online, right? And so it's really just being intentional about how you are looking at, one, how do you create some automation around the experience you're doing today? Then start thinking about how do you start packaging some of the things that you're doing to maximize your time and their time, and use the time that you are with people as reinforcement, as the coaching, as the accountability, whatever that looks like, and then see what starts to happen and how it starts to evolve when you look at it from a different perspective, a different model, and then you can start really thinking about how do you automate the process even more around creating an experience. And usually the experience is around the onboarding, around the teaching or the success path that you want them to go on. How do you reinforce and kind of I call it controlling the dip, right? How do you help them be successful along the path, especially when they get into actually having to do the work? And then how do you celebrate their success, their milestones, and achievements along the way? And when you look at it from that perspective, you're probably doing a lot of that live and you're not even thinking about it. If you were to be intentional about creating that and having a plan for it ahead of time, a lot of that is something that you could probably automate and probably really leverage in terms of being more efficient or make it available in different ways for them as part of the experience. So what questions do you guys have? Would love to get any questions or any key points, like, does this resonate? Have you been struggling with this? Is this something that, have you tried some of these different things? What's working, what's not working? Would love to start a conversation around this, because this is where those of us who are online experience creators really start to shine, right? When you think about how you create an experience for your people that allows them to be successful and also allows you to leverage your time, that becomes the ability to win the game versus the people who are just like throwing something out there and like they don't care whether or not it's good. They don't care whether or not anyone finishes it or takes it. They just are selling it kind of as a short-term strategy, right? Like, we're in the long-term game of really being able to serve and make an impact for our people, which means really getting creative around how do you think about changing this process. So would love to get any comments or questions or anything else below as you're thinking through this strategy in your business, even if it's something that you're struggling with, because I got to tell you, this is normal. Everybody goes through this. It's sort of that letting go process of, you started your business, you were scrappy, you served people, and then you've probably gotten to a place, or you're headed to a place where you are feeling maxed out. You're feeling like, I don't know how I'm going to do more. I don't know how I'm going to scale to the size I want to get to, while giving my time one on one, or even in small groups, to be able to offer this on a regular basis. And that's normal. That's where we all get. And it's that shift that helps you start to take those steps to really being able to leverage and scale your business in an awesome, awesome way. So, all right, there you go. I will leave you with that. Happy Friday. I am going to sign off and see if I can corral some spring breakers here in my house. All right, take care.